המצב באירופה מתחיל להחמיר גם, לא כמו בישראל עדיין, אבל האם הסגר הישראלי יפרוץ את הגבולות מעבר לים? עוד מעט נהיה גם בלונדון, אבל קודם נגיד שלום לדוקטור וינסנט סוריאנו, מומחה למחלות זיהומיות במדריד. Hello, good morning, Dr. Soriano.
Good morning.
So how critical is the situation in Madrid?
Well, we are living a second wave of the pandemic. There are several differences with the first pandemic, the first wave of the pandemic in March and April. So there are many more asymptomatic and young people. This is in part because we are doing many more PCR tests, and now we are replacing the PCR by the antigen test as a screening. But the feeling is that everything is not under control. So we expect that during the next couple of weeks, probably our hospitals, we will see again, and they will be collapsed more or less, especially in large cities. So the only good thing right now is that people is more or less aware of the severity of and the ease of the transmission, and measures already have been more or less taking place.
Yeah.
No one wants a new lockdown, a new confinement. But the situation in large cities looks like we will close almost all the shops, all the unnecessary activities.
We know, Dr. Soriano, there is a clash in Madrid over the lockdown.
There is no confinement right now. There is no lockdown, but the politicians are discussing whether in some parts of the city with huge number of incidents of new cases, it will be required. No? So people still is aware to go to job and schools and universities, but nothing more than that.
How do you explain the outbreak in Madrid as it was in the first wave, if we compare it, for example, to Italy?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in many things, our outbreak right now in Madrid reminds what happens in Milano, for example. So is the return from holidays, the open of activities, especially schools and universities, coming back to work, and high density of population, 6.5 million in Madrid area. So it's all the circumstances you need to have an outbreak.
Okay, Dr. Soriano, stay with us, because we have also Professor דוד כץ, שהוא יושב ראש ההסתדרות הרפואית היהודית בבריטניה. שלום, פרופסור כץ.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. שלום. אז אנחנו יודעים שגם בבריטניה יש עלייה מאוד משמעותית בתחלואה. האם סגר בלתי נמנע שם?
Well, as Professor Soriano has already mentioned, we're in the process of the second wave. And this second wave is started up coinciding with the opening of schools, with the return to universities, and with the relaxation of rules about communication in groups. And these issues have all contributed, and they've contributed more significantly, as we've also heard from Spain, in the larger cities. Everybody doesn't want to have a lockdown. The economic climate has been injured, and more particularly the health climate has been damaged, both in physical and mental health. Physical people not getting treated for their routine conditions or for their more normal conditions, so-called, and on mental health because of the sense of isolation, particularly in people who live alone or in small households, but also people who are crowded into relatively small accommodation during a period of time when it's beginning to get colder. It's beginning to get moving towards winter, and it's more difficult to be locked down.
But we are getting closer to the closure.
We are getting closer to the point of view of closure, undoubtedly. The northeast already has significant closure. The northwest, the discussions are ongoing as we speak in the Merseyside area, should they have more closure. And last week, London was put on the alert list for this. It's a very serious question, and there's concern because the government, unfortunately, is giving confusing messages. we're very fortunate that the chief scientist in the UK is himself a distinguished physician, and there's a chief medical officer, and both of them are saying this looks like it's likely to happen.
Yes, so Israel was the first to impose a lockdown, and maybe Europe will follow it.
Well, that's probably true. I mean, we're looking at extraordinary figures. We're looking at 1 death per million happening, which is now 71 deaths. It's rising. The numbers of people on ventilators are rising.
Yeah.
There are 3 or 4 people per million on ventilators. One third of the tests, even if you are skeptical about the tests, 1/3 of the tests, 105 million per million tests are positive out of 300 per million tests done. So, it's a significant shift.
Okay, Professor David Katz and Dr. Vincent Soriano, thank you so much for these interviews. Thank you.
Thank you.